Gentlemen, I'm super proud to bring to you the monster producer, Coach Micheal Burt.
I spent over a decade of my life as a championship basketball coach, learning the psychology of inner engineering people to perform at the highest levels, specializing in activating the prey drive, an instinctual ability in each person to find, capture, and kill prey, to go out and see something either optically with the eyes or mentally with the mind and have the fortitude, the persistence, and the intensity to go get it. Now, over the last 12 to 13 years, all I've been doing is activating this prey drive in individuals and businesses around the world, building high prey drive cultures where people are producing at the highest possible frequencies. You have a prey drive. You have another gear. You can find that gear and do something you've never done before. I'm Coach Micheal Burt, and I'm here to activate your drive. Y'all ready for me to activate that prey drive in you? Before I get started today, I want to say this, because it takes a lot of guts to put on a conference like this. And when I was watching J.D. Frost speak today, I wrote a note to every person on my team, and I said this: if you want to know why I stuck with J.D. Frost through any of the chaos that he's gone through, for any of the accounting issues he's had, you're watching right now why I believe in him. So if you will, for me, give him a standing ovation, because that was incredible. Come on, J.D., come on. To be that real, to be that transparent, to be that honest, to set your pride aside and say what he said today was really touching. Now, my name is Coach Micheal Burt. How many of you have seen me speak before at some point? How many of you saw me speak at 10X? Anybody? Okay, good. That's where I met J.D. Frost. And I was the underdog at 10X, right? Like I got Tim Story, and I got Ed Milet, and I got Grant Cardone. And for those of you that don't know how I got on stage at 10X, I was sitting in Miami. I started building a relationship with Cardone in 2012. I spoke at the very first 10X conference. There were 75 people there in Riviera Maya, Mexico. And I started building a relationship with Cardone. And then fast forward to 2018, somewhere around there, I'm sitting in Miami. I had just spoken at 10X headquarters. And I'm sitting in Miami, and I'm sitting right across from Cardone. And I said, let me ask you a question. Do you think I'm good enough to speak at 10X? He said, absolutely. And I said, why haven't you asked me to speak yet? If you think I'm good enough, right? And he said, well, you know, I've spent $4 million on this, and, you know, I had to get the arena, and you're good, but you're coming up, but your Instagram followers are not quite enough yet, right? And I said, okay. I said, look, I don't want to be a taker. I want to be a giver. If I wrote you a check for $100,000 right now, would that guarantee that I speak at 10X? Now, I'm not buying my way on stage. I'm helping you as one friend to another friend, and I will buy 50 VIP tickets right now for $100,000. And I reached in my back pocket, and I pulled out a check, and I wrote a $100,000 check. And I said to him, does this guarantee that I speak at 10X? What do you think he said? I think we can make it work, right? I think we can make this work, right? Now, here's the deal. Part of the reason I'm telling you this is because who was I betting on then? Me. I didn't know how I was going to make the $100,000 back. I didn't know how I was going to go home and tell my wife that I wrote a $100,000 check. I just knew that if I got in front of 10,000 people, that I could make $1 million more. I knew that if I had the opportunity to do that, so I was betting on me. So I come home and I'm thinking, how are we going to make this money back? How are we going to make this money back? What are we going to do? And let me tell you what we did. We took those tickets, those 50 tickets. We repackaged those tickets. We put them into a package that included the 10X event. It included 1 year of my coaching program, a monster producer. It included a VIP party the night before, and we turned around and we sold those tickets for $5,000 a ticket, and we sold 50 of those tickets in 6 months. So off my $100,000 investment, we made $250,000. Is that a good bet? Yes or no? And speaking at 10X did help me make $1 million more. Now, I'm telling you this because what I'm going to talk to you about today is this concept of prey drive. And very few people really understand what this means, but I've spent a decade of my life as a high school women's basketball coach. And my job was to take a 14-year-old And the parents would bring me the 14-year-old, and they all said the same thing. Coach, my daughter's got a lot of potential, right? Every now and then they say issues, and they'd be right about that. And drama, and they'd be right about that. And attitude, and they'd be right about that, because I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she's got all that, okay? And they would say to me, Coach, my daughter's got a lot of potential. She just needs something. What do you think they said she needed? Structure, focus, discipline, accountability. One of the number one things they said she needed was confidence. Now, I want you to remember those things, because is it not true that those are the very things you need? Structure, focus, confidence, accountability, discipline. These are the things you need. But without this one thing I'm going to show you today, none of that matters. Without the activation of this pray drive, none of it matters, because the pray drive is an instinctual ability inside of you to see something with the mind or optically with the eyes and have the guts to go get it. See, in that moment, sitting across from Cardone, a guy who had deeply influenced me, I had to go for the kill. Does that make sense? That was a defining moment. That was a pray drive moment, right? Either you eat or you be eaten, okay? And I would tell you from coaching thousands of people, most people have not activated their pray drive. 9 out of 10 people have not activated. So they're operating at a level, but they're not operating anywhere close. In essence, they're level 10 people stuck in level 4 opportunities. How many of you believe you're a level 10 person stuck in a level 4? Or you're a level 10, but you're operating at a level 4. So I'm going to show you how to activate this. So we're going to put the PowerPoint up. And when you're thinking about it, this was me when I took over as the head coach at a place called Riverdale High School. That's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Notice that full head of hair that I had. I was 21 years old. I was the youngest head coach in the state of Tennessee at the second largest high school. And I took over a place that hadn't won in 30 years. Had terrible seasons, terrible basketball. It was a football school. And when I took the job, they said, oh, you'll never win a championship here. This is a football school. We had a very famous coach there named Gary Rankin. Some of you know him. And he built this powerhouse in football, and girls basketball was like a joke. People didn't come to the games. People didn't care. People didn't show up. And when I was interviewing for that job, the principal said something to me. He said, every applicant that has applied for this job has more experience than you. Every applicant has a better record than you. Every applicant here, some of them have won championships before. Now, you give me one reason that I should hire you over all of those people. Is that a pray drive moment, yes or no? And my instincts kicked in. And I said, if I coach as long as those people do, my record will be twice as good as theirs. But that's not why you need to hire me. You need to hire me because I will bring the one thing that you've always wanted to this place. I will build a championship program. And he looked at me and he said, kid, you got the job. We'll announce it tomorrow afternoon. Now, I want you to think about that. How many times in your life have you had that moment that you didn't have the guts to ask? You didn't have the guts to call, right? You didn't have the guts to go for it. You didn't have the guts to say, I'm the number one person. You didn't have that drive, that pray drive, right? And so when you're thinking about this concept, when you're looking at it, this is one of the number one things that changed my life. This one thing, around 18 years old, I'm at a coaching clinic, and a guy named Don Meyer, one of my mentors, said to me, if you don't read another book this year, pick up a copy of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I had never read a personal development book. I had never been into personal development. I had never been into personal growth. I didn't even know what personal development was because I came from a small town. I was raised by a single mother who had me when she was 16 years old. The house we grew up in, the living room and the bedroom and the kitchen were all the same room. I watched that woman scratch and claw for everything we had. She instilled in me a pray drive that every day we don't whine, we don't complain, and we don't make excuses. We get up and we go get it. A few weeks ago, my mom totaled her car on the way to work. She got out of the car, got a ride to work, and went to work. I didn't even know about it. I had to find out about it on Facebook. And I called my mom. I'm like, did you total your car? She said, yeah. I'm like, you okay? She said, yeah, I'm at work. Don't bother me right now. That's the kind of mama that raised me, right? Tough. Get up. Go get it. We don't whine. Well, at 18 years old, I go to this coaching clinic, and he says, go check out this guy named Dr. Stephen Covey. So I go buy the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in the book, he talks about this theory. He calls the whole person theory. And he says that people are made up of 4 parts: a body, a mind, a heart, and a spirit. Each of those parts produce 4 different needs, 4 different intelligences, 4 different capacities, 4 different dimensions. And each of these parts of your nature have to be connected to if you want to perform at a high level. So for example, let me ask you this. What good is it to have skill with no desire? What good is it to have knowledge with no confidence? What good is it to have confidence with no knowledge and no skill? Right. That's called arrogance, right? Now, here's my point. When I understood this, that I'm coaching these people, how many of you are leading people right now? If you're leading people, this is one of the number one things you need to understand from this. If you're not tapping into all 4 parts of your people's nature, the body, that's skill. The mind, that's knowledge. The heart, that's desire, passion, prey drive. The spirit, that's confidence, belief in a higher power. If you're not tapping into all 4 parts of your nature, then people are just coming in there. It's called willing compliance. They show up, they go through the motions, they do just enough not to get by. 67% of Americans say they're disengaged with their work. I see work as the distribution channel for your talents, your God-given talents. You can take your talents that you've been given and distribute them through your work. And the higher you distribute your talents through your work, the world rewards you. How does the world reward you? In the form of love and appreciation and reputation and referrals and money. The world says, man, you're good. And because you're good and you're moving the world down the here's the reward for you. But if you distribute your talents at a very low level, you got a little bit of knowledge, you got a little bit of skill, you got a little bit of desire, you got a little bit of confidence, the world says, is that all you got, man? Is that all you got? You telling me you're a level 10 person, but you're operating at a level 4 here? If you're leading people, this one thing will change everything for you. Notice the heart. How many of you have ever been great at something that your heart was not involved in? I want you to think about this. Name a relationship you were ever really good in, but you just didn't care at all about the other person. Anybody have that, right? So when you think about this concept, if the heart's not involved, that's what we're going to tackle today, the prey drive part, the activation of this. Now, when you're thinking about it, when I began to activate this drive in my players, so you say, well, what were you doing, Coach? I taught every player the 7 habits of highly effective people. Imagine your daughter playing for me at 14 years old, right? And she's learning the 7 habits of highly effective people and character ethic and personality ethic and the paradigms and how to have a paradigm shift. I taught every player the principles of good to great. I taught every player the 5 dysfunctions of teams, the 5 disciplines of a learning organization, the power of intention. Can you imagine me teaching Wayne Dyer stuff to a 14-year-old kid? The power of intention. So what happened is, because I was teaching all of these things to my players, I was touching all 4 parts of their nature. The body, that's the skill, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. And guess what began to happen when I began to touch all 4 parts of their nature? They began to produce at a very high level for me. We began to build deep bonds with each other. They began to win. And when I say win, we begin to win and win. And this is one of my favorite nights of my life. That's me on championship night, winning the whole thing in front of, at that time, there were 10,000 people that came that night. And it all happened because we started to build a competitive intelligence in the players. A competitive intelligence where you're tapping into all 4 parts of your nature. Now, somewhere along the way, about 25 years old, as we began to win some and we began to do things, you would come watch our teams play and they were so connected. And we had this competitive intelligence about us. And people began to ask me, what are you doing with these kids? Over and over, people began to say, what are you doing with these kids? And what are you doing with these kids? And I said, I don't have time to explain it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in books. And I began to write these books about what I was doing to win. How many of you have a book in you that you've never written? If life is worth living, it's worth writing down. Even if nobody reads it except your kids, or you read it, or you do it for yourself. When I wrote that book, first book at 25 years old, called Changing Lives Through Coaching, I began to get all these phone calls from business people. And they began to say the same thing. Coach, will you come motivate our people? Will you come inspire our people? Will you come coach our people? Now, they would say this, Coach, they got a lot of potential, right? They just need what? Motivation, focus, structure, accountability. And I would go over there and I would speak for an hour and I would say, man, this is good. And I would teach them how to activate the drive in their people. And I would sit there and I would say, man, this has been good. Thank you. I got to go back and coach my kids. I love these kids. These kids mean everything to me. I got to go back and I got to do this, right? And I was speaking once at Dell Computers and they said to me, man, this is really good. Will you come back? And I said, no, thank you for asking. Thanks for buying my book. I'm not trying to be rude, but I need to go back and coach the kids, right? I'm trying to build a championship culture there. And they said, well, are you sure? Would you come back? We'd really like for you to coach our people. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested. Thanks for being nice to me, right? Like, I appreciate it. I'm not trying to be rude. And the guy said, okay, fair enough. And he reached in his pocket, and he pulled out an envelope. And he said, well, here's your check for motivating our people. And I opened that envelope up, and it was more in an hour than I was making in 320 hours. I just made more money in an hour than I was making in a month. You know what I said then? Somebody else can tend to them kids. Like, them kids will be all right. Surely, to goodness, there'll be somebody come along who loves them kids as much as I do, right? The truth is, I didn't retire at that point. I actually stayed 6 more years. We did build that championship culture. That school would go on to win 7 of the next 9 state championships in the state of Tennessee. And at 31 years old, I would retire to do what I do today, which is coach business people like J.D. Frost. I've been J.D.'s coach for the last, 2 years? And am now doing all kinds of cool things like going on tour with Tim Story. I can't wait till you see him. We're going on a tour together this year across the country. And listen, here's what I'm telling you. Every person in this room has a skill set that you have not figured out how to package and sell to the world. See, I was just a high school basketball coach making $24,000 a year. But what I was really learning for that decade was how to engineer a person to win, how to tap into the whole person, how to touch the spirit of a person and the heart of a person and the mind of a person and the body of a person. That 10 years was school for me to learn how to go do this all over the world. So when you think about this concept, there's me now, thanks to this new jet that I purchased, traveling around the country, and there's me speaking at 10X in front of those 10,000 people. Now, when you think about this concept, there's a stage for every person in here. And so what I want to ask you today is a real hard question. My goal right now in my life, I'm 43 years old, is to become the #1 activator of Pray Drive in the world. I want to ask you a question, and this is a hard question. I want you to tell the person beside you, what do you want to become known for? When you think, because here's the deal. One of the books I wrote was called Person of Interest. And to become a person of interest in the world, you have to become a known quantity. You have to become known for something. You have to become known because of something you've created or something you've done or something you've built or something, right? Some big problem you've solved. And if you don't know this one thing, and it's taken me 43 years to figure this out, what I really been doing for 25 of those years was activating the drive in people. And it took me this long to figure it out. So I want you to take a second right now and tell that person beside you, right now, what do you want to become known for on planet Earth? What will you become known for? Take a second right now and tell them. Now, everybody got it? It's real important. See, you can aspire to become something. When I wrote that book, Person of Interest, I was not yet a person of interest in the world. I wrote it from a perspective of I'm going to become a person of interest. I'm going to become somebody that does something big in the world, right? I wrote it from this is what a person of interest does. These are the ingredients of people of interest. So when you think about this Pray Drive, when you come known for, I coach a lot of top people in a lot of different industries. I was coaching a car dealership this morning here in Chattanooga, but I coach top mortgage originators, top insurance originators, top real estate people, top guys like this right here, Cody Askins, who's got an 8% Nation Conference. That's incredible. These two right here, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter to me what industry you're in. Jesse, I work with your team. It doesn't matter to me what industry you're in. When I look at what top producers are, it's not their skill that separates them, although skill is very important. It's not their intelligence. Okay? The valedictorian in my high school class, I think, is still trying to figure out what he wants to be when he grows up. And we're both 43 years old. See, he would beat me any day in IQ. I would beat him any day in EQ. You with me? So it's really not intelligence, not looks. It's not personality, although you'll never go wrong being friendly and nice to people. It's a certain kind of drive that top producers have. Now, for the purposes of this, we're going to refer to this as prey drive. Now, how many of you heard of this concept before? Okay? Now, it's very prevalent in dogs. A dog has a prey drive. This is the definition of prey drive if you went to the dictionary. It is an instinctive inclination of a carnivore to find, pursue, and capture prey. Okay? Notice it says instinctive. Okay? The term is chiefly used to describe and analyze habits in dog training. It's very prevalent in dogs. Now, how many of you have a sweet little dog that you've said, this little dog would never hurt anybody? If that dog was trained by the right person and that prey drive was activated, I don't care how sweet that little dog is, you would not want to be alone in a room with that dog. What happens when somebody tries to attack the owner of a dog? What happens in that dog? That's exactly right. Does that prey drive get activated? Yes or no? Here's the deal. You got a prey drive in you. It is instinctive. It was manufactured in you by the manufacturer. Now, when you think about this concept, so many people suppress this concept, and it hasn't been flipped. So when you think about it, while modern dogs are domesticated creatures that can be trained to behave in a civil manner, sounds like employees, right? They can all be trained to behave in a civil manner, right? But their instincts can always come out. All dogs have a prey drive. It's that need to stalk, chase, and kill prey. Now, you're not trying to stalk, chase, and kill prey. You are trying to pursue something big. You are trying to wake up and move toward a big dream, to see it optically in the mind or with the eyes, and to move toward it with the focus, the intensity, and the persistence of it. Okay? Now, when you think about it, this is something I just came across the other day, and I missed this when I first started teaching prey drive. I'm constantly trying to figure out, how do I flip this dude's switch? What button can I push, just like I did as a basketball coach, to get this person operating at a higher frequency? What rewards people? Now, notice this. In many breeds of dog, prey drive is so strong that just the chance, let me use another word, just the freedom to satisfy the drive is its own reward. Now look at the bottom line. And extrinsic reinforcers are not required to compel the dog to perform at a high level. What is this basically saying? The reward is the ability to pursue. It is not in actual catching. Everybody understand that? Now, I coach a lot of companies, and they give trinkets and gift cards and Starbucks and reward trips. I do not do any of those things in my company. I teach my people the reward is actually the pursuit. How many of you feel miserable when you feel stuck and stagnant and you're not moving towards something? There's only 3 states of energy. You're either dynamic, which means alive, on fire, engaged, excited, enthusiastic. You are static, which means stuck, complacent, bored, in a rut, or there is entropic, which is disintegration, dying. The minute a plant stops growing, it starts dying. And I would tell you, the minute a person stops growing, they start dying. So when you think about this concept, you got to get to the point that you don't need some external person to motivate you. You don't need somebody to psych you up on Monday morning. You don't need this. The reward for you is intrinsic. It is the self-satisfaction to go home at the end of the day to know that you did everything you could to be good, that you prepared. Now, when you're thinking about this concept, there's 3 components to it. There is an activation of it. How many of you, your prey drive was activated at some point, but it flickered out? Okay? You had it, but you lost it. Okay? You had it, but you got complacent with it. Complacency is a gradual settling to a place of mediocrity. Anybody send their kids off to school in the morning and say, hey, here's what I want you to do. It's a big goal. Pay real close attention. I want you to go to school today, and I want you to gradually settle to a place of mediocrity. Anybody tell their kids that? Here's what I do. I look at my 7-year-old daughter when I put her in the car, and I say, sweetheart, we're going to do something big today. And I put my hand up like this, and you know what she does? She looks back at me, and she says, big, Daddy. And not long ago, I was coaching my daughter in tennis. We were down in Florida. Tennis is a hard sport to play at 7 years old. And I'm out there teaching her how to hit back and forth, and she's going, I can't do it, Daddy. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's so hard. I'm getting frustrated. I said, time out, sister. We went over and we sat down. I sat down beside her, and I said, here's the deal. I don't ever want to hear you say the word, I can't again. You can say, I'm trying, Daddy. You can say, I'm learning. but I do not want to hear you say I can't. So we go out again. She misses it. Guess what she says? I'm learning, Dad. I'm trying, Dad. She no longer used that word. 2 nights ago, she looked at me and she said, Daddy, I want you to do a cartwheel. You know what I said? I can't. You know what she said? I don't ever want to hear you say that again. I'm telling you something, this little 7-year-old, I mean, is strong. She's like, you can say, I'm trying. You can say, I'm learning, but you cannot say, I can't. You know what I told her? You're right. Daddy's fault, right? Now, I'm going to tell you something about my wife that I didn't know even when I married her. When it comes to Pray Drive, my wife did drugs every single day from 21 to 24. She had no direction. She had no focus. She had no purpose. She had no good friends. She was this country girl from West Tennessee, this pretty country girl from West Tennessee, that her parents, she was never in sports like I was, so she didn't have the direction and the discipline that I had and the upbringing that I had. And 21 to 24, she comes to Middle Tennessee to go to college at Middle Tennessee State. And she got involved with all kinds of shady people. And all she did was drugs and party. And she did nothing. She was in a job selling cell phones for Verizon that she hated. And she kept going to it every single day. And her company, at 30 years old, paid for her to come to one of my workshops on a book I wrote called This Ain't No Practice Life, which is about you don't get a second chance here. And it was a 2-hour workshop, $50, and I noticed this real pretty girl sit right over there, who's kind of a distraction to my workshop. And she's taking notes, and she's focused, and she came up to me afterwards. She said, "Can I meet with you in a couple weeks?" And I said, "Absolutely, that'd be great." And she came back 2 weeks later, and she had ripped that book up. She had highlighted things, and she said, "Nobody has ever talked to me about any of these things. Nobody's ever talked to me about my potential. Nobody's ever told me I can do something better. Nobody's ever given me any coaching. Nobody's ever activated this drive in me," right? She said, "I'm going to quit this job that I hate. I'm going to start a catering company because I believe I have a gift of hospitality. Okay, I want to go out and do something big in the world." Okay? And I tell you that because now my wife is writing her own books. And she is coaching women. And a company I go to coach every month in St. Louis, they called in one day and they said, we'd like to pay your wife to coach all of our women. This is the same girl who did drugs every day from 21 to 24. Same girl that didn't have any direction. Same girl that didn't have any focus or purpose. This is the same little country girl that all she needed was to activate that drive. Does everybody see that? On any bad day we have and she's on me, I think it was last week she was on me a little bit about something, you know what I like to say? "Sweetheart, you got a pretty good husband for just $50 see out of this," right? Like, what could you expect for $50, right? Like, you didn't pay $5,000 for me. Now, here's my point. I tell you this because I could give you story after story after story of people I've been coaching over the last 15 years that had that same drive my wife had in her, but they did not know how to flip the switch. They did not have a trained person in their life who could flip it for them. I think left to your own devices, and I think Tim will agree with me on this, left to your own devices, we all contract and retreat to a place of comfort. We need another person to have conversations with us that we don't want to have. We need another person to push us to do things we don't want to do. We need another person to say, you're a level 10 dude. Why are you operating at a level 4? We need that, okay? So some of you, this Pray Drive has got to be activated, and I'll show you the 5 activators in just a second. Some of you are missing one thing, okay? One of my favorite Christian books is a book written by a pastor named Eugene Peterson. It's called Long Obedience in the Same Direction. Long obedience in the same direction. Couldn't we say that for anything in life, the truly great people who are great at something have had a long obedience in the same direction? When you hear people talk about mastery, 10,000 hours of practice, 10 years of practice, when you see people that are great, it's not like they just started. They have been doing this for year after year after year after year after year. When you watch Tim's interview with Oprah Winfrey, I told him I probably watched it 10 times. When you watch it, it's so smooth, and there's a cadence, and there's a rhythm, And it's like, this dude knows what he's doing. But how many times has he coached people through those things? Year after year after year after year. How many times have you done it? We live in a cotton candy world today. We live in a world where people want it right now. They want to be great right now, but they don't want to put the time and effort into it. All the greats have been doing it for years. You can't get caught up in this cotton candy, even in Instagram world. You got to get caught up in not looking good, but being good. And when you have substance, people will figure out how good you are, no matter what platform you're on. So for you, do you show up when you don't feel like it? See, what my mom was teaching me in the early years of Pray Drive, when she wouldn't let me miss a day of school. My friends would get to skip. And I would go, Mama, can't I just stay home one day? No, sir. We dress up, we show up, we grow up, and we deliver it. And I hated that. Except one time I was on the road for about 14 straight days, and I was tired, and I was exhausted. And I woke up unmotivated, but I still showed up that day. And I picked up the phone, and I called my mama. And I said, I want to thank you for something. I want to thank you for teaching me how to show up every day. Too many people, when they don't feel like it, don't show up. Would you agree? They listen to their feelings. Amateurs listen to their feelings. Professionals never listen to their feelings. Okay, I was watching Lady Gaga perform once. She, right in the middle of the show, turns around and throws up. Turns right back around and starts singing. I said, that was sexy right there. That is the kind of woman I like right there. Right or wrong? That's a professional. Turns around and throws up, turns right back around and keeps singing. I'm like, that's it right there. You won me over for life right there. Now, here's the point. Look at the bottom one. This is something that's missing in a lot of people. Intensity. How many of you know people like, man, you got the goods, but you just operate at such a slow pace. You got no force. You got no ferocity. You got no intensity toward anything. Like activation of Pray Drive. Here's how I know when I'm talking to a small-minded person. Okay, their goals are too small. When you don't have any intensity, it's a good indication that your goals are too small. Big-time people do not have time to get together and talk about other people. Big-time people do not have time to get together and talk even about events. Big-time people get together and talk about ideas, and they talk about execution of ideas. That's when I know I'm talking to a big-time person. Small-time people get together and spend all their time talking about other people. You got to have some intensity about you. Now, when you're thinking about this concept, here's the questions I have. Has this been activated in you? Has this been activated in you? Has it gone dormant? Have you moved into a static, stuck position? What do you need to be exposed to reactivate? Could it be possible that somebody who said something today has reactivated your drive? Yes or no? Okay, which is why you need to come to these. Exposure to something bigger, right? Speaking on that stage of 10,000 people, you know why I needed to do it? Not for those 10,000 people. Who did I need to do it for? You. Me, to prove that I was good enough. I was as good as they are. I just needed the opportunity to do it. That activated my drive. Everybody see that? So for you, when you're thinking about it, here's a few things I want to show you. This is from a new book I have that's just came out called Single Digit Millionaire. And it's a journey of how I went from a high school basketball coach to a millionaire, because that's the number one question I get asked all the time. How did you go from here to here? How would you go from coaching girls basketball to coaching people, right? But there's a bigger lesson here. It's not about the money piece. The money piece is a byproduct of what? Value and service to other people. That's where the money comes from. Okay? That's how you wake up one day and go, oh, because I asked my financial advisor one day, when can I tell people I'm a millionaire? He said, Coach, you've been a millionaire for the last 3 years. I didn't even know. Because you know why? I didn't focus on that. What did I focus on doing? Just helping people. Just execution. Just helping people. So when I wrote this book, okay, I said this is not complicated. First, you got to find a primary hard skill that you have. You have to find your primary hard skill. And a hard skill is a unique ability that you have. It is typically recognized early in life. It is typically recognized by other people. And once found, has to be honed and refined and nourished over a long cycle. That long obedience in the same direction. So first, you build a primary skill. From that skill, you then build demand for that skill. Everybody understand? How do you build demand for your skill? How you market it, how good you are when you get in front of people. What happens is you begin to build demand. People start coming to you, going, hey, can you help me with this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Okay? Then, next thing you know, you wake up and you got a network. You got a network of people who are coming to you. You got a network of people who are exchanging with you. Then you start building these what I call structures of exchange. I started building, right, these structures of exchange, meaning how do you let your people exchange energy with each other, time with each other, money with each other, opportunity with each other. Because here's the deal. The next deal that you're looking for is already in your network. Would you agree? There is no shortage of money. There is no shortage of opportunity. There's a shortage of courage. There's a shortage of connection. There is a shortage of confidence. That's the only shortage that's in the planet, right? So you got to start telling yourself, once you have this skill, how many of you think you found your primary skill? Your primary hard skill. I mean, you have a primary hard skill. Okay? I would put J.D. Frost up against any tax strategist in the world when it comes to understanding tax code and tax strategy. Would you agree? Yes. Okay? That's a hard skill. What he was saying earlier in his talk is he got away from his hard skill. And if he don't write a book called The Ledger, I'm going to write it for him. Right or wrong? I already started writing it, J.D. Coach Burt with J.D. Frost. Now, here's my point. Here's what I'm saying, guys. When he got away from his primary skill is when he said, this is when I got into trouble. Okay? And let me tell you something. I can't tell you how many wealthy people I've coached that got bored, and when they got bored, they got involved in all kinds of things they know absolutely nothing about. I was coaching people during the recession, big home builders that were worth 30 or 40 million bucks. They had restaurants, they had golf courses. One of them had a clothing business. Where's Jay Lynn at? One of them started his own clothing business who knew nothing about clothing. Here's what they said: mistake. I should have buckled down on my primary skill and become world class at it, because that's where all my money was coming from. Now, so when you think about this, what I find in people is most people don't know their primary skill. Therefore, they can't get their revenue up. And when they can't get their revenue up, look at the bottom one. They don't have any excess cash. The way you really build your net worth is you've got to have enough cash left over at the end of the month after you paid everything and paid yourself that you can take it and reinvest it into something. Now, I'm going to do you a solid here. I'm going to give you the ebook. I'm going to give you this ebook. And I'm going to give you 4 hours of me breaking this book down. All you got to do is text Coach Burt to that code right there. I'm going to give it to you. The book plus a 4-hour session of me breaking the book Single Digit Millionaire down. Okay? Coach Burt, 678-506-7543. And this may be the best book I've ever written. This is number 15. So when you think about this concept, everybody got the code? Okay? I'm giving it to you, so if you don't do it, it's on you, not me. Okay? We could probably get it for you, JD. Okay? Now, here's what I'm saying, and I want to start building momentum here for you. We teach a concept called intentional congruence. Intentional congruence is where everything in your life feeds everything in your life. There is no primary flow of income, and then you got some secondary flow way over there that's not attached to your primary, and it's all crazy, like you're doing this, but you're stuck over here, like I'm confused. Like you're this, but it's not connected to each other. So we teach a concept called intentional congruence. Intentional congruence is where you build cash from your primary business, and you take that cash and you flow it into secondary businesses you love. Okay? Now let me give you an example. I love coaching people. That's one of my passions. I love coaching groups of people, and I love coaching people in inspirational settings. So what my wife and I have done is we basically have taken the cash from our coaching business and bought unique properties around the country. Okay, now you say, why? Not only for the Airbnb concept. So this is about an 8,000 square foot lodge we bought in Tennessee. I bought that lodge for $1.3 million, and that is a steal. And I got it for 23 acres with an 8,000 square foot lodge. I can't tell you how many people walked in there and looked at it and wouldn't buy it, because they couldn't get their mind around it. As soon as I walked in this lodge, I told the agent, I said, draw up the papers. She said, do you need to see the whole thing? Nope. All I need to see is the living room. Because you know what I saw? This intentional congruence. My wife loves real estate. She loves redesigning our real estate. She loves managing our real estate. I love coaching. What if I could coach at this place, and we could stay here when we want to, and we could rent it out when we're not using it. I expect this lodge will make us about $250,000 a year. Okay? And we love it. We moved out there the whole month of December and lived out there. My personal house is only 20 minutes from this lodge. Does that make sense? But I felt like I was in the mountains. I felt like I was there. So what we do is we take the lodge and we coach there. We do workshops there. We rent there. Now, you see the intentional congruence? What I'm doing is I'm including my talent and my wife's talent. My wife has the gift of what? Hospitality, the gift of serving people. So she handles all the catering. She handles all the deal. She goes out there 2 or 3 days and gets excited. Now I'm tapping into her pray drive. Now I'm tapping into my pray drive, okay? Because I'm coaching in an environment. Now, do you see the intentional congruence I'm trying to build here? Okay, every one of you could be doing this. Take the excess cash from your business and go purchase things that will make you more money. And I can show you how to purchase and do retreats at a place like this and not make a small return on your money, but literally put a couple $100,000 down on something like this and make $300,000 or $400,000 back in the first year. Now that's a return right there. Everybody with me? Then we went down to Florida and bought this house, 9-bedroom. We do coaching events down there. That's in Seaside, Florida, 1 block away from the Seaside Square. It's beautiful. We love it. My wife's down there right now. Okay? So when you think about it, we do coaching events there. We do those things there. That's intentional congruence. Now, one more piece. So when I talk about including people, now I've got my wife writing books. I'm like, this is good. Bringing in more revenue to the family. I like this. But here's the deal. Look at her book, Living with a Monster. Now, for all the spouses, if you see something in your spouse and they're scared to go do it, do you know I volunteered my wife to write that book on Facebook? We were at 10X. I just spoke. I was so excited. We were having this dinner. And in this moment of enthusiasm, I went online and I put a picture and I said, I want to congratulate my wife on writing her first book called Living with a Monster. Because she'd been telling me this. She's like, it's hard living with a monster producer. It's hard living with a monster producer. It's hard living with a monster producer. And so she's getting like 600 or 700 likes. Congratulations, all these things, right? And she's right at dinner. She's like, hey, hold on a second. Did you just commit me to writing a book? I said, yeah, I did. Because you can. She was scared to death. She wrote that book, and I remember when it came in, and she was holding that book in her hands. And you should have seen how proud she was when she held her first book. And I said, I told you you could do it. Now, what am I doing? I'm activating her pray drive. See, sometimes I activate her drive by challenging her. I can't do it. Yeah, you can do it. I don't want to do it. Yes, you can do it. I'm not qualified to do it. Yes, you are qualified. You understand what I'm saying? That's activation of pray drive. You can do that for your spouse. Now, we got just a few minutes left, so I want to come down the home stretch here. How many of you are in sales? Raise your hand if you're a salesperson. When I come into the day, people always ask me, how do you attack a day? How do you attack a day? How do you attack a day? Number one, by 7 p.m. on Sunday night, every single person in my company has to turn into me what they're going to do to create and manifest success for the week. Everybody with me? By 7 p.m. on Sunday night, every person, including my personal assistant, including everybody on my team, has to show me, what are you doing this week to create, to manifest, to create some intention? I'm not trying to babysit you. I'm trying to show you how high-performance people do it. Low-performance people spend their weekends escaping from their week. And I know because I've been a low-performance person in my life. Low-performance people use the weekend to get away from the reality of their life. High-performance people spend the weekend rejuvenating, recreating, renewing, studying, meditating on something. So they come into the week, they're ready. So this is how I attack a week. Every day when I come into the day, every single day, I have a hit list of new money. Every day I'm calling on new money. Say new money with me. Okay? Every day we need to be focused on what? New money. Every day. There comes a time when winter asks what you did all spring and summer. Every night we go to bed tired and we wake up hungry. It all goes to midnight. It all goes to zero at midnight. This is the mindset you got to have. Every day we focus on new money. Every day we focus on new money. So every day I'm coming in, I'm focusing on new money. Every day I'm focusing on following up with people. And I wrote a book on that called $1 Million Follow-Up. The average sale takes 7 to 15 touches 80% of the time. We've been calling on a dude here in Chattanooga. Couldn't get his attention, didn't respond to my messages. I told my team today, we're just going to stop by and see him. Right? I just busted up in there today. Hey, happen to be in Chattanooga, just want to come say hi to you. You know what he said? We want to do something with you, Coach. We just been busy doing all this stuff. Now, if I don't make that call while I'm here and I don't call on him for see, he's in my farm club. I'm cultivating him. I'm working him. If I don't make that phone call, what's the probability that we do deal with each other? Selling is a game of probability. Life is a game of probability. You can drive up the probability or drive down the probability. Okay, that's a farm club. New client engagement. Very important. 5.7 referrals. I believe every transaction you do should be worth 5.7 referrals over the lifetime of the customer. How often are you engaging with your current clients? I try to engage with my people every Monday. I do a Monday accountability session that I offer. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I put a rhythm in the private Facebook group. Every month I teach. I don't believe in customer service. I believe in customer engagement. Okay? Referrals come from engagement. Okay? So you got to drive up the engagement of your people. Now, let's look at a few things here as we close it out. Question number one. Look at that question up there. Would you rather have $1 billion or would you rather have 1 billion friends? Now, somebody the other day said, Coach, I'll take $1 billion and call it a day. I understand. But shouldn't you make more than $1 billion if you had 1 billion friends? You got to get out of your brain that all the money you're looking for is in the pocket of another person. Money changes hands when problems are solved. Every car you've ever driven, every house you've ever lived in, every vacation you've ever gone on was paid for by who? Your customers. Somebody that you solved a problem for. Optimization is how do I take one person? The key to the many is to the one. Right? The key to the many is to the one. And that's what you have to remember. 80% of what I do for free. I do for free. 20%. I get paid on 20% of what I do. And you got to get in your mind, too many people say, well, if I don't get paid, I'm not doing it. My answer is yes. Now you tell me what the question is. You need me to be there for you, JD? Absolutely, I'll be there. You need me to do this for you? Absolutely, I'll be there for you. Because why? I know there's opportunity on the other side of that. You got to get out of your brain that you got to get paid up front on everything. You get paid on the back end. Now, close it out with this. The activators of Pray Drive. I saved this for last because I want you walking out of here and I want you thinking about what does it for you. These are 5 activators that I use when I'm coaching people. What I'm trying to find out is which one of these will flip your switch. How many of you, competition is a primary activator of Pray Drive for you? Like you love being number one, you want to be number one, you want to be at the top, right, Chris? When you think about this, for some people, competition will activate Pray Drive. If that's for you, like it's a game. Work is a game. I got to have something to compete against my own potential. Number 2, what about loss or fear of loss? This is actually my number 1 activator of Pray Drive. I wake up in the mornings and I'm so grateful for what I have. I'm so thankful for what I have. Guess what? I don't ever want to lose it. And because I don't want to lose it, guess what it creates in me? A healthy fear. I go to bed tired, man, and I wake up hungry. I never get satisfied because I know what takes years to build up can take seconds to tear down. All the top performers I coach all wake up with fear. And they work as if they're broke. They go to bed tired. They wake up hungry. Look at number 3, inspired by others. How many of you, when you get around big-time people, you think bigger? You think bigger. So how often are you getting around big-time people? How much time are you spending with people? Okay, when I leave this conference here, I'm going to speak in Salt Lake City in the morning with Tim Grover and Ed Milet to about 1,500 people. And then I'm going to leave there and I'm going to go to Orlando and speak with another group. Okay, and I'll constantly want to be around people who are better than me. Okay, I constantly want to reach up. I constantly want to get around that. Environment, exposure. Now I'm going to tell you about exposure. Because how many of you, when you've been exposed to something new, it activated that drive in you? That's the number 1 thing you can do to activate drive is see something new. That single mom took me one place when I was growing up for vacation. Gatlinburg, Tennessee. We stayed at the same Best Western every single year because they had an indoor swimming pool. I never got on an airplane. I never saw New York City. I never saw Chicago. I never saw any big city. All I knew was this little bitty place. Is every year we go to Gatlinburg and we ride the go-karts. So now when I go to Gatlinburg and I see that Best Western, I get all freaked out because I didn't have any exposure. The number one thing we can do for you is expose you to something new. This past year, we got a new airplane. That's me and my wife. We got a new jet. We upgraded, sold our old one, got a new one, and that activated my drive, right? All I had to do was just sit in there. You know, one of the number one things we do is we take people with me on that plane. Tim has flown with me on the plane. And what it does, as soon as somebody gets in there, guess the first thing they say? I'd like to have one of these. Right? But there's a big lesson. That's the inside of my new plane. 7-passenger jet. But I was thinking about exposure. I was thinking about my buddy Ed Milet. And you see my plane, my little starter plane. And this is the plane that Ed Milet was looking at. Now, I want you to think about this. I didn't see planes like that until I got on the runway on my little plane. Everybody understand? And until you get on the runway and you look out the window and you go, what about that one over there? Or what about that one? Boy, that one looks nice over there. You don't even think about it until you're in the game and on the runway. Does everybody understand that? That inspires me. I'm not mad at him because his is bigger than mine. I'm happy for him because that motivates me. There's a bigger future. Exposure will take you to a new level. Here's my hard questions. Here's my hard questions. Your potential's calling. Potential is the idea of kinetic energy that is stored until utilized. Every single one of you have more potential. Every single one of you have a prey drive. You got to ask yourself, when you study the 5 regrets of the dying, Bronnie Rare spent the last 12 weeks with people in the last 12 weeks of their life, both male and female. And she found out that they all had regrets. I think one of the biggest regrets we'll all have at the end of our life is real simple. We could have, we should have, we were capable of, but we did not. Until you activate this drive, those are the kind of regrets you will have in your life. Now, I'm going to be here tonight to watch my good friend speak. If you didn't get the text code, make sure you get that. We will be downstairs here in just a little bit. You can get my online academy, which is daily training for me, Monday accountability for me. You can do that for as low as $588 a year. That's a small price to pay for a full year of coaching, and get my online academy in there, okay? And if you're serious about being coached, the other thing we're doing while we're here is real simple, guys. I'm going to give you a year of my coaching program that is coached by me. I'm going to give you access to 2 days at my boot camp at my lodge, and I'm going to give you a year's worth of coaching for $997. We typically do that as much as up to $5,000 a year. When I speak, we give people a discount. And I want to tell you, with a coach in your life, what could you do? Just talk to the people in the room who've had coaches and see what they can do, because your potential is worth a whole lot more than $1,000. I want to thank you guys. Everybody needs a coach in life. God bless you. J.D. Frost, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Chattanooga, I love you. God bless you.
Give it up for Coach Micheal Burt, everybody.